Starting the conversation, helping millennials uncover their potential personally and professionally is what empowerment coach and motivational speaker Paige Johnson is all about. Paige, one of some, truly does that. 2 years ago, she came up with the idea to start a YouTube channel, which transforms into a more video content and engagement on Instagram now. The discussion-based Instagram forum created by a millennial that recognizes this generation needs a space to discuss the things millennials are thinking about and experiencing, but not saying it out loud. Paige has amazing topics from my self-defeating monologue or stop asking friends for discount. Don't I know it? Negotiating your salary, power of positivity, millennial representation. Get ready. This was really an exciting conversation. And my second guest in the studio, which is always awesome. So yeah, get ready. It's time to hear some words of wisdom from a millennial, okay? In today's BCANCC podcast with special guest, Paige Johnson. Welcome to the Black Canadian Content Creators Podcast. I'm super excited because I have the second person in studio right here with me.
Yes, I'm probably more excited than you are. I was driving here, blasting music, and then at the stop signs, I would take Instagram, and I'm recording like I'm going to be on the Black Canadian Content Creators Podcast, guys. Look out for it. I am so excited.
I was just saying earlier before I don't know what happened with producer there.
Gotta love him.
CSI, yeah, I'm outing you. We're talking about like this is how I know the difference of millennials and my generation, how it's just natural for you to go on Instagram.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Do a boomerang. And for me, I wait later and I'm like, oh man, I should have done that.
Yeah, I think it's almost like, when you go to the movies and there's all of the previews in the beginning, we're trying to give the public a preview to our life. So coming soon. So when I was driving here, that was the preview. Coming soon, I'm going to be on this podcast. Then we're going to record something while we're talking. And then when I leave, I'm going to be like, hey guys, it's done, because I can't obviously handle just dealing with myself. I have to let the masses know what is going on with me.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you
I
for having
have
me.
Paige here, Paige Johnson.
Yes.
Is that cool? Is that cool? Miss Paige actually is a motivational speaker and empowerment coach, and an amazing content creator. She's on YouTube. She does these amazing Instagram, conversations that makes you really think. And I really was like fascinated by what you're doing. And I was like, I gotta have this girl on the show. And so your Instagram and your YouTube is Paige One of Some.
Yes.
What inspired the name?
Okay, so we'll throw it all the way back to my younger days when I remember being in middle school and, you go around the class and they do the attendance. Who's here? Paige. So people would make fun of my name. So I would be so mad because I'm like, why would my parents give me the name Paige? Because people would be like, Paige like paper, turn the page, And then my younger sister, they give her the name Aaliyah. So I'm like, how does this even happen? And like the younger sibling, they always get the better version of everything. So as time went on, realizing there's nothing I can do with my name and I have to embrace it, I'm like, why not make a play off of Paige? So Paige One of Some, because I talk so often too, it's almost like a page out of my book. So instead of page 1 out of 365, it's page 1 of something else that I'm going to talk about because it isn't such a focused topic. There's so many things going on with me. There's so many things going on with millennials. So that's where it came from.
That's very dope. And
Thank you.
When did you start with did you start with YouTube first or Instagram first?
Yeah, I was doing a mixture of both. So initially I was doing full videos on YouTube and I was doing the previews on Instagram. So I'll do an exciting part of the segment and then I would have, say, a video ranging from 10 to 15 minutes on YouTube. But my background is marketing and branding, and I felt like doing the two, it was a little more difficult for me. And based on what I was speaking about, having more condensed videos worked better. So now my main focus is Instagram. And so I'll break apart the videos, have things, say, under 5 minutes, because, a lot of the conversations too with millennials is our the word I'm thinking? Okay, we'll cut that part out because then it sounds really bad. So in terms of marketing with millennials, it was so much easier to do Instagram, and I felt like I was a lot more aware of the Instagram engagement levels, and I'm still educating myself on how to better my brand on YouTube. So I'm still doing both, but the focus of my content is all Instagram.
So well, before we get deeper into your content, I'd love to know more about you. You mentioned you have a marketing background. What was it like Mini Paige? What did she want to be when she grew up?
Oh my goodness. So ironically, this says a lot about me and a lot of the changes I've made. So at such a young age, I was never one of those girls that was like, oh, I want to get married. I want a home. I want all of that stuff. I wasn't one of those young girls that were always talking about marriage and plan my dream wedding. I was always saying, I'm going to be independent. And I want at least 2 properties, and I'm going to be famous. So I would tell everybody, I remember when I first learned what a signature was, I would make up a signature, and I would give it to people and say, I'm going to be famous, so hold on to this.
Wow, I did the same.
Right?
Yes, I practiced at a young age, my signature.
Yeah, and it's just scribbles, or it's like when you just learn cursive, but I felt like I was manifesting without even realizing. And that was my whole energy. That was it. I said I'm going to be famous. Like, why would I not? I talk so much, and realistically, I don't have a talent. Like, I'm not good at sports. I don't really do anything except over talk. So why not use what I'm good at and apply it towards something else? So growing up, I was in plays. I actually met someone and they asked me to do Lion King. So I'm like, this is my big break. I'm going to be Lion King. I had big curly hair. Like, I was a great actress.
Like the actual play.
When it was coming to Toronto, this was like, I don't know, I was in grade 2 or 3.
Okay.
And then they said, can you sing? And I'm like, oh, like out loud? Like 2 people? And they're like, well, you have yeah. I'm like, oh. And then they're like, well, you have to take singing lessons. I'm like, all right, Mom, Dad, it's not going to work out. I'll just stick to the talk show. And then it's honestly really sad because I was actually looking back at my LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and my bio in my LinkedIn says, when I realized I could never be a famous talk show host, I implemented blah, blah, blah skills, and now I'm in the blah, blah, blah industry. So I came to the realization that I just kind of cut out all of my daydreaming and all of my thoughts of what I could be because society basically said, like, no, you can't, or you're not doing enough, or I was comparing myself to other people. And then that's where I got to the point I am. But at a young age, I was just always getting in trouble for speaking. So,
oh my God.
Like on all of my report cards, it was like, she's a good student, but she's like very social in the classroom, or she's talking too much, or I go to like a dance class and then be talking more than dancing. And yeah, so that was just that was me just speaking. So
then you got into like marketing.
Yes.
In university.
Do you want to hear about that story?
Yes.
Okay.
How did you get into that?
So initially I was going to go to school for broadcasting.
Okay.
So I figured if I'm not going to be in front of the screen, I could be on the radio. Yeah. And it's an unfortunate story, actually. So one of my friends was murdered. And it was all over the media, and we had a lot of psychologists and social workers at our school, and because it was posted everywhere, and I was kind of going around talking to people in the classroom, and the social workers and psychologists were like, you have a way of speaking to people, you need to get in this. So I'm like, maybe this is not what I should be doing. Maybe I shouldn't be on TV or broadcasting. Like, I need to help people. And in school, I was really good with psychology, and I was very interested in the behavioral component of people and why people do the things that they do. And I think maybe I kind of associate it to be my calling because I'm almost there helping out my friend. Like, maybe this happened, and it's opening up a path for whatever. So I kind of just went all into psychology going into university, and not realizing when you're in psychology or when you're in university that psychology is more neurology, whereas psychology in high school is more behavioral. So when it came towards all the behavioral courses, I was amazing. Those 20-page papers did not faze me. Presentations, great. But the other side of everything, the neurology and the brain development, it wasn't the most exciting thing for me. Yeah. But all of my electives were media and communications courses. So it's communications, it's PR, marketing, branding, and so on and so forth. So long story short, I was failing university. So my electives, I was getting extremely high grades. I'm getting 80s and 90s. But I'm in my actual major, I got a letter that I was going to be on academic probation. A lot of people don't actually know this, but academic probation. And then I got another letter saying I'm going to go the following year. If I don't get a certain average, they're going to suspend me. And it was such a hard kind of time for me because I'm like, what happened? Like, where was this moment where I dropped the ball on everything?
Why did you think you dropped the ball?
I think, honestly, dealing with things that, like the passing of my friend, I didn't fully deal with it because I was so immersed in helping other people. But also, too, I think it was just a different life being in university. Like, it was living on my own really wasn't the issue. I don't know if it was even the freedom of, okay, I could do as I please and there's no one on your back to be like, you have to do this, you have to do that. And then partying. And I think I was so used to things coming to me so easily. So I'm like, oh, well, usually the teacher will like me, so they'll just pass me, you know?
You could talk your way.
I could talk my way through it. And I think when one thing went wrong, things just kept piling up. And I just became so overwhelmed. And I was just not in a good space mentally, I feel like, and I wasn't really putting myself first, and I had the stresses of work, and I would put other things ahead of what was important, and I kind of lost sight of my personal value of education. And then what made things worse is when I decided to make the change, I went to speak to an academic advisor in the psychology department, and I'm like, this is what I'm going through, and I need to, make things happen for myself, and he told me to just drop out of school. Wow. So he's like, well, look at your grades. You're not going to make it, so you might as well just drop out. Unfortunately, you can't go to another school because we block you out of the whole school system for years. So
really?
Yeah, so he kind of just brushed me off. So I was kind of in a lower point when that's someone that, they're hired for you to go to them to make you feel better, right? And the media and communications advisor, someone referred me to her. So I went to her just with the mentality that she's going to tell me too bad for me and I'm going to have to actually go to my parents and be like, hey, I'm getting kicked
university?
out. At my same school, yeah. Wow. So each department has a different advisor. So I spoke to the advisor for the media and communications program, which is where all my electives were. And she was like, Paige, why are you worrying? Like, look at your marks here. Look at the person you are. Let's change this around and let's make it happen for you. And I changed my major in my third year of university. So I was supposed to be there 4 years. So she worked with me where I only had to stay in school for an additional year. So I went from failing basically university in those first 3 years to graduating with honors. And media and communications, the whole marketing and branding realm kind of brought me full circle to what I actually know and love. We're not only branding myself, but helping other people brand them, whether it's personally and professionally. But we're also in a day and age with the internet and different brands and advertisements and those messages. So to be able to decipher where those messages are coming from and what they actually mean, I think it gave me an upper hand. And also, too, I feel like communication in general has become an art. It's about to be lost. People struggle so hard to communicate with others because we're such in a computer-mediated industry. So to even have a degree in that, like I've had so many potential employers say the fact that you even went to school for this is life-changing because the world it's not happening like that anymore.
Really?
Yeah, so I was told by a couple different companies when I got
out of
school.
What are they seeing that,
Well, what they're saying is just speaking, the art of conversation is now being lost. And I found that, too, with a lot of the papers that I wrote in university, that even what we're doing right now it doesn't really happen. Like, if you think about it, when you're talking to friends or family members, even a lot of people with their kids, like when I lived at home and my parents would say it's time to eat, they're calling me saying, come down and eat. I'd be at other friends' houses and their parents will text them to say, okay, it's time for dinner. Like at my home.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, it's so different. And then with jobs now, like a lot of people, we don't have meetings. We'll have, okay, well, here's an email. Or like relationships, like you're having a texting argument. Why are you not speaking? Like, why can't you yell face to face? Like, what is the problem, right?
Yeah.
So the owner of my current company, he was saying that communications or just speaking is something that people will be able to put as a skill on their resume because I know it's really sad. It's like actually really depressing, but this is what technology is doing.
That's interesting you say that because I have a teenage son. We have a teenage son, and I see it in terms of like he's always had challenge in terms of communication. That's just the way his brain is wired. But on top of that, with what you mentioned, the technology aspect, and I find like the younger generation are almost has anxiety when it comes to having a conversation one-on-one, like like you mentioned, like what we're doing right now. Do you see that?
I do. I actually went to a conference on multi-generational communication, and we discussed each generation, and there's basically a life event that occurred at that time, which is why generations act the way that they do. And when they talked about, or when they discussed Generation Z or Generation Z, which is, how old did you say your son was?
He's 19.
19.
So he's, I think, around.
He's around our age group. But they were saying that with the life events that we see in the news, so unfortunately with the mass shootings and any of those attacks, we correlate our cell phones to safety. That's our only way to get in touch with our parents. That's our only way to get in touch with families. And so they reference that as why we have our phones in general. But pertaining to your question about us and
like, do you see that with the younger generation? Because we earlier in the show we talked about millennials, and I'm Generation Generation X. That's who I am, right? And then you as a millennial, like, do you see this aspect of anxiety or how technology affects the younger generation in terms of communication?
Okay, yes, in terms of communication, 100%, because I remember being younger, speaking to my friends on the phone. Now everybody wants to text me.
That's true.
Or how you had mentioned me wanting to post things on Instagram.
Right.
So I will post things on Instagram on my page, one of some page, because it's promoting my business and I need to be out there. But on my personal page, yes, sometimes I might have that delay where I don't want to post it right away. But I feel like with cell phones, people want to show that they're in the moment without actually being in the moment. So I think there's the pros and the cons of having technology, but I think the biggest issue that my generation has is living through the screen. So I've traveled, I've done so much traveling, and I remember I did a trip to Europe by myself. And people were just, this was like their whole trip. It was just holding their cell phone and looking through everything through the screen, but they weren't going into those museums. They weren't eating the food, but they were just taking those pictures. And then I'd be calling my mom, telling her about all the exciting stuff that I'm seeing. And they're like, oh, well, I'll just text them or send them a picture. So I feel like we feel like those little images or those messages are enough, but we're not feeling or hearing that emotion in someone's voice or that excitement. Things are so misconstrued and we don't get that whole experience because we're so obsessed with our phone.
Yeah. What's something that, phone, and we're talking about content creation and Instagram. What's the type of content specifically that you create now? Because I think, like I said, I love them. Oh. They're conversational type of, it's about you're taking the time to let people think about different things about themselves, about self-care, about, whatever. Like how, was it a moment that specifically changed for you that you're moving kind of away from YouTube to more Instagram?
I think the moment where I made the change from YouTube to Instagram was looking at my own personal preferences, where if I use Instagram a lot more often and I know, like personally, then I know how it works. I know what people are saying. I know what people are doing. And like I mentioned before, it's those engagement levels that make such a difference for me, and the attention span as well. And I think it's that immediate access. Previously, when I was posting on YouTube and I would post a promo on Instagram, it would be click the link in the bio. But realistically, like I looked at it myself, when people do that, I don't even though it's so simple to click, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so much work. Like, why couldn't you just post a whole video here, right?
Yeah.
But then I came to the point of recognizing there are people who love YouTube, and I'm kind of missing an entire market not being there. But to better develop my brand, I need to develop it based on what I'm used to and where like my masses are. So because with my conversations, they cater a lot to millennials. When we look at the statistics of what most frequently, it is Instagram. And, they'll go to YouTube for certain things. Snapchat might be a little more personal, and all the other apps, so on and so forth. But I need to build my brand where my demographic is and then expand elsewhere, but also bringing my viewers on that journey. So as of now, I'm doing some more. I do LinkedIn for my company, but I'm trying to get millennials more into LinkedIn and the benefits of it, because I use it as a business sense, but I'm like, why can't I post my content on there? Why can't we be our true selves on LinkedIn? So I want to kind of do my research to make sure when I'm speaking to you, it actually makes sense. And I'm like, hey, try this out. And then they're like, oh, Paige doesn't even know what she's saying. And then I lose that level of trust. So
what do you wish you had known when you started out your content?
Oh my gosh. I wish I had known that I was enough. I think in general, speaking to friends or family members, they will tell you I'm super confident and super talkative. And I'm fine with building rapport with people, whether it's personal or business. But when I started, I didn't think me speaking was enough for people. So when, if you look at my previous videos, when I first started to my recent videos, it was so staged. So the things I was saying was what I'm saying now. However, I don't wear makeup. So I'm trying to buy whatever will match my skin tone because I'm like, my skin has to be balanced. I would try and get my lashes done. My hair and I was on a natural hair journey at that point too. So like it was already a struggle to figure out what to do with my hair, but it had to be perfect. And the way I was speaking, the background had to be consistent. Like I was just overthinking that, people have to like the visuals of things and not really care about what I'm saying. And I think I took a 3 to 4 month hiatus to kind of really get to know myself on a different level. And if you look at my videos now, it's literally like, okay, I just put my son to bed. I'm going to place the camera wherever the sunlight is. I have no makeup. Half the time my hair is dirty. But I think in that month, I think I came back about a month and a half ago. And I gained almost 300 followers being my authentic self.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Being the most cookie cutter basic person ever. Because why? Why be like everybody else when you are your own person? Like, who cares?
And brands now are leaning towards that.
Yes.
They're leaning towards your authentic self because it shines through. And that's, you're going to attract people who has the same ideas as you, the same, they move the same way as you do, sees the world the same way as you do. And so I do, that is something, there's been a lot of research lately where they're not looking for, they want people who, you're starting to notice on even in commercials, they want people to look more natural, different sizes, different heights, different,
exactly.
You know what I mean? And the authentic self is what's, people want to see.
Exactly.
Like that's where it's moving when it comes to branding.
Exactly. And I really feel like in terms of personal opportunity for myself, I've always been that person who will uplift others and wants to build someone else's business and all of that. But I would never really take that time to look into myself. And I'm not vulnerable. So I will tell you, I'll be that, that voice in your head that's like yelling at you. I'm that voice coming to life, but I would never be that voice for myself. And I think that was the issue. And when I started becoming more vulnerable and talking about things about motherhood or things about, being a millennial in an office where you're the youngest person, where they think that, you don't know too much because you just came out of school. And when I began to share those experiences, that's when opportunity came because people didn't feel like I was just generally helping them. It's more, okay, I've been through that. So let me tell you, so, you don't have to go through these same mistakes or, so. Yeah.
And what's different, I think what I like about your content too, you very niche, right? You're very, it's rare to see content from a Black perspective or, BIPOC perspective of that, your generation as millennial. What made you think, I just want to, obviously, you're a millennial, so you're gonna. But why specifically you wanted to create your content for them? Is it to break myths? Is it to help? Because there's this. Here's the thing with Generation X and boomers. There's this concept that millennials are entitled or they have attitude. They don't know. They think they know, but they don't really know.
Yeah.
And was that why you wanted to focus in that niche and that generation?
Honestly, the main. I always felt like, I always heard the stereotypes, of course, growing up. And, all we care about is travel and avocado toast and so on and so forth. And I would always brush it off because I was, like I said, super confident in my own self. And the reason this channel came to be is because I finally entered the corporate world. So in my previous jobs, I was always working with the mixed age, but usually everyone is my age. And working in the corporate world where I am literally the youngest person in the office, I'm working at headquarters, I'm with C-level executives, there isn't really anybody my age. I really witnessed the stereotypes, not only towards myself, but if there was younger people, in terms of, like, we are not there making the decisions when you're marketing to our generation, you know, and we're not being represented in those ways. And even for me with my background, you say they would listen to what I would have to say, but it'd be like, oh, but she's young, doesn't have experience, you know? And so aside from even that, the people that I surround myself with, I feel like they're amazing, like this generation, but they don't get it. They don't understand how amazing they are. They don't understand that us as a generation, we are different. We were the last generation that played outside and then entered into technology. So we have the best of both worlds, whereas generations above us, they were introduced to technology at such a later age. The generations below us, their life is technology. Yeah. We're the only generation that has the best of both worlds, and we don't use that to our advantage. And it's so easy for us because most of us receive or dealt with social media. Well, social media, I'll say Facebook was that social media where you're connecting with friends and family. Once Instagram came into play and we had that direct connection with celebrities, it started messing with our minds because there were always those images projected on television of this is the ideal look. But when you go on Instagram, it's a completely different ball game. And you're constantly being told, like, you need to look like this, you need to act like this. And for our generation, I want you to realize, like, you are the shit on your own. Like, you have so many things going for you, you know? Look at your outlook of things. We're so number-based now that you need to have followers, you need to have likes, where everything is based off such stupid stuff, and it's gotten in our head. So what I wanted to do was, aside from the corporate world of them realizing that we actually do know what we're talking about, focusing on my generation as a whole, you need to understand that you are it. And if you don't have confidence in yourself and if you can just get out of your head, so much opportunity will come to you. And although my content is focused from a millennial point of view, there is people in different generations that watch my stuff. And the goal of that as well is for them to see that we are not what you think. So even with your platform, you're changing the narrative because as much as you know about Black content creators, there is so much stuff projected in the media. There is a lack of representation for minorities. There's a lack of representation for millennials. Like, if you could tell me a show or a movie where the millennial was the CEO or we were the decision makers and we weren't just the ones traveling and fighting with our parents and on our cell phones, you know?
Right.
So the main goal is to change the narrative about us and understanding that we can make it happen. The same way the generations before us made it happen, we now have a bigger platform to do so. So why are you just following all this stupid stuff that you see online and, you know, messing up your own mental health and self-esteem thinking you have to look like this and act like this when you were born, you have your purpose. Like, get your shit together. You're it. Like, be that person. Be you. And that we're told so often that we are not enough.
I need to invite you back on the show. We can go on for a long time.
I know.
But this is like only a 30-minute show.
I know. I need to stop. I'm like getting so into it. I'm sweating. Like, millennials, get it together. Get it together right now. Come on.
See, what you just heard with Paige, this is what you get when you follow her on YouTube and you see some of the videos, the amazing conversation and videos that you do on Instagram. This is what you get right here, like what you just heard. Where can people find you? I want to invite you back because I think we should do like fun games, like myths, different myths about millennials.
I would love that.
You know what I mean? Things like that. And because I can go on forever, honestly.
Oh, me too. I have a whole channel about it. I am always here to talk.
What do you have coming up? Because you say you're motivational speaker and empowerment coach.
Yes. So
you're doing that through not just with Instagram, but what other areas are you doing that?
So in terms of the motivational speaking, I have already spoken at other women in fitness events and lifestyle and mental health. So just sharing my own story in terms of being a new mom and the pressures of social media. So I'll speak to big groups regarding that. That's what I've already done.
That's a good subject.
That's what I have done already in the past. And of course, amazing working with you. And then I have a couple different opportunities coming up that I can't speak too clearly on.
So that's why you're going to have to come back.
Exactly. So I'm doing some stuff with some colleges and some bigger brands, which is super exciting, hosting some events. And then the empowerment coaching business. So I was really focusing on brand consulting, but the empowerment coaching, it encompasses so many parts of your life. Like, I am all for your business development and growing that brand. I'm there for that. But your personal development and understanding who you are and what you can be is such a big thing to me. Talking about motherhood, talking about fitness. There is just so many things that we can discuss. But the empowerment coaching encompasses all of that. So understanding your potential and how things that may have held you back in the past will elevate you, and sharing your story and making you amazing in the future. So empowerment coaching, motivational speaking, I'm always here for it.
So we're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Once you can talk about it, we'll have you
Yes.
back. You can share what you're doing with that. So people can find you on Instagram. That's page 1 of some.
Yes.
Page the number 1 of some, SOME. And that will be in the description where people can follow you. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for creating this platform.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
I don't think you realize how wicked it is, because you are making a difference.
Thank you. It was needed. I was like, I appreciate my American cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
But y'all, like, we're here too.
Exactly. Don't forget about us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Till next time.
Yes.
That was empowerment coach, motivational speaker Paige Johnson from page 1 of some. Here's a cool testimonial I found about Paige from Gracia, who is a young business professional. She shared, Paige has helped instill confidence and belief in myself through her individual consultation and motivational speeches. She's been instrumental on helping me identify my strength to brand my professional career. Paige is an incredible mentor, and I'm grateful for her support and belief in my future endeavor. Definitely check out page 1 of some. That's Paige, Paige, the number 1 of some, SOME, all one word, on Instagram. Very amazing quotes, motivational talk, truthful, honest, transparent conversation that she starts and makes you think. And let Paige know how you found out about her and her services and content. Subscribe and never miss the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, CastBox, or any other via RSS. If you found value with this episode, I would really appreciate a rating and review on iTunes, or comment on any other podcast listening platform. Oh, and tell your friends or family or fellow content creators about the show. That will also help. Follow the show on all social media platforms, Black Canadian CC. And at last, visit bit.ly/Black Canadian CC. That's capital B, capital C, and then capital CC to join the group on Facebook. All right. Till next time. Bye.